to the 12th of July, 2022. Make sure to subscribe to my official YouTube channel, like my official YouTube videos, and go to my website, www.susanmealing.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com. So I'll put the link as to what inspired the starting point of this official YouTube video of mine. And for those who know, I kind of very much enjoy Greg Gutfeld's personality on his show and how he brings forward different topic points in the discussions, whether in regards to the Five or Greg Gutfeld's show. So you can see in certain references, despite the difference as to the time frame, whether in the daytime or the afternoon hours, to the evening hours as to his show or his appearance on the Five, pretty much the same, you know, while still capable to have the seriousness in the discussion, you can see the more jovial aspects in the evening area of the time in the comparison. Which, you know, I don't know if anybody else has noticed that, but that's something I personally have noticed. And I first heard of him when he was doing the Red Eye show. And so, which I can make a joke because of my hair. And I could only draw eyes for the longest time in the detail that I could draw eyes. It's a weird, weird irony that it is as it is. Nonetheless, in this particular video clip, again, the link will be in the information section. One of the topic points as to the Second Amendment, though it's more in reference to a few things, is the singularity of viewpoints in comparison to taking a multifaceted view of the reality. There is no capable way to really fix and repair situations without acknowledging how other aspects are interconnected. Yes, in prior decades where people's educational levels were lower, as well as while prior decades where only certain areas had certain access to information, such as libraries or in depending on as to schools, you know, and what level. Same thing in reference to whether you have the TV aspects, the landline aspects, the cell phone aspects, whatever capacities of. Yes, decades before, it was difficult to be capable to actually discuss topic points in a multifaceted way. That's obvious. I've discussed this in my lectures, or I shouldn't say discussed, I have lectured about this in my prior official YouTube videos of mine, if you take in consideration that. And so with the expansion of the internet as well as television, access to movies, books as far as that's concerned, cell phones obviously as to those factors compared to. So when I was growing up in the 1980s and 1990s, going up to New York City to see my cousin Jade and spend time with her and her family, the access to current information in the neighborhood she was in, as to the precinct she was in, as well as the school she attended, in the comparison to some of cousins in those references, those different aspects were noticed. And so those physical books that I would bring up from New Jersey to New York City and we'd go over the details of, that's from the time frame of the 1980s and 1990s. So yes, before then, when in reference to elected officials, politicians, and stuff like that, yeah, okay, one topic at a time, you know, newspaper articles, one topic or one viewpoint at a time. But this is kind of why I really like Fox News in the capacity complexities of, because they'll have multiple viewpoints from different angles. And, especially when you take in consideration the five and those factors where if it's a singular point that can be maintained in that singular point, yes, that makes sense to have a one-on-one. And then further go into the details later. But there are times where certain topic points do make sense to have that multifaceted view, in my opinion. Then again, I acknowledge my bias because of my own personal experiences. And so, yes, back in certain times, which, yes, the educational background is a situation, but when you're not delving into arithmetic, there's really not that need to actually have just the singular view. When you're not delving into scientific equations, there's not that need. And even if there was that delving into, you still can use metaphors to relate to that. So that way individuals either can take the information from that point in time and then go research, or the developmental factors of to assist that understanding. So in my opinion, it's really important to take a multifaceted view. Now, I'm going to go into a different capacity, which is along the same line, though, a little. So, I haven't denied being a part of what's supposed to be considered the consenting adult lifestyle. And when I had what was my home in Carrollton, Texas, I lived in a cul-de-sac. And, they were elderly in comparison to me. I was in my 20s. For those who don't know, the people who had houses in the cul-de-sac in Carrollton, Texas, when I purchased my house in 2008, being a single mom of 2 children, looking as I do, I think the youngest individual was like in their early 40s. And so those who knew me in 2009, more specifically in 2010 and 2011, and yeah, sure, this is 2022. Just think, those who I knew in person, face to face in person, whether in 2010 in the Austin area, I had my home in Carrollton, Texas. And the specific cul-de-sac I lived in Carrollton, Texas, I mean, yeah, okay, I was the youngest, but the youngest individual was like in their early 40s. And you know how I physically look. And just think, my viewpoints. And so, no, just think. Just for those who I once knew in person, face to face in person. Just think. And so then when, because those who have known me in person, face to face in person, I'm a smidgen, I mean, you don't even have to be in the supposed to be consenting adult lifestyle. I can be a smidgen stubborn. I mean, every now and then I can be stubborn. I mean, how stubborn do you have to be to have, I mean, just what level of stubborn could there, hypothetically? I mean, I only earned 26 scuba diving certifications in less than a 12-month time period. That's all. Yeah, no, just, I just looked as I do in the state of Texas at that time. It's just Carrollton, Texas. No, just, so for those I once knew in person, face to face in person, despite whatever issues up, just keep that in mind. Yeah. So then there's, I began my modeling stuff. And my house. Now I'm going to get a little, because remember, they're all from their 40s and up in the year 2009, which translates to they were minimum if they weren't in high school and or college in the 1960s and 1970s. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. What were those comments, especially through online or phone calls? Mm-hmm. How are you gonna be judgmental of somebody? Not even going in regards to how I physically look. How you gonna know how any in that hypothetical, huh? How you gonna know? What would be the knowledge basis? Because just as I can listen to different video links and stuff like that and be capable to give metaphors and proverbial aspects from my background as far as different people I knew who you know. Who you, or is it that you know yourself? And that's what it was. Talking with your children and being all, oh, I know exactly what type that is. I know exactly how you know, Grandma. Huh? Huh? How you know? You can take the bitch out of the ghetto, but you can't take the ghetto out of the bitch. 1960s, 1970s. I've heard about elder individuals who are like, I'm so glad that technology wasn't around when I was. Why? Think about that. They're glad? Why are they glad? Why are they happy that the technology wasn't around at that time? I mean, sure, there was film photography. But yes, I know the aging process. Don't change the facts. No, it don't. Nuh-uh. No. So while some people could be like, oh, in the modern times regarding, whatever viewpoint, perspective aspects, just think about anybody who's been like, I'm glad that there wasn't, that digital cell phone camera when I was a child, or more specifically, I'm so glad that cell phone technology wasn't around when I was a teenager. What'd you do? No, I'll call that out right there, right now. Yeah, 1960s, 1970s, in my prior official YouTube videos, I've already gone over some of that. 1980s, 1990s had some situations. Yeah, what? Small town areas didn't have that going on all of a sudden? No, don't be playing. No. Oh, no. And then it's kind of like, when my biological mother, that gremlin pinto, her having said, I haven't ever known anyone who has smoked the marijuana. She went to Rutgers University. For all those people who say they know how people are from New Jersey, you talk about college students that were up in New Jersey instead. Is that what that actually translates to? The pop culture is actually college students from New Jersey, but they're not from New Jersey. They just went to college up in that state. Trying to say didn't ever know anybody who smoked the marijuana. I don't know. She sure was really into that Fantasia movie. It seems really weird that somebody from college in the 1960s and 1970s was like, no, I didn't know anybody at all. And she tried to tell me she had not, at that point in time, it was after the 2000s. Nobody she knew ever. Mind you, I am MJ. Literally, like, she sure is, she just, I didn't know anybody. Yeah, okay, well, Now I will say, no, 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 no. So 2012, sitting outside my back patio, dealing with my headaches and stuff like that. She sure didn't mind sitting in a sun, and she'd complain about Mike smoking his cigarettes, but she sure as be all, yeah, well, okay, you heard about secondhand smoke, huh? Is that what that is? Because, like, I'm just saying, she didn't like my volcano, but she didn't mind if I smoked out of my pipe. Yeah. You just think about that. Yeah. Yeah, if I smoked out of my volcano, for anybody who knows, I don't have a volcano anymore. And I'm not talking about the underwater scuba diving. I did make that as a joke to myself, though. That was kind of why I did get that back then. I was like, oh, I found underwater forming volcanoes. I'm gonna get this and I'm such a ninja. Nobody knows. This was my internal thoughts. so as a so regarding my MMJ, as far as assisting me, as far as not just the after effects of my head injury regarding my headaches and migraines, but definitely after some of the stuff regarding my scuba diving, it's one of those I handle lobster mask. I got this little underwater volcano. But no, this is my on the land volcano. And then because I'm me, okay, so these are my thoughts. And so I got this little bag, and so sometimes when you cook, that's right, yeah, lobster bisque. Because, and then with the heated portion, it's like, I bet it's hot still, that's right. Underwater volcanoes, they're gonna go and there'll be some lobster bears, there's gonna be some lobster bears. Internal thoughts. And then because of the color of the mouthpiece, I'm like, orange, you glad? Because I'm just that. These were thoughts back then, okay? And so, and then those who know what lobsters look as in certain areas, like, that's right, I cook it different way. Internal thoughts, mind you. I didn't actually say that out loud. I was just, was as it was. And so when I had my volcano all those years ago, I'm like, I cook it, what? That's right, lobster bisque. Mama. That's right. Totally changed the color of the butter. What? But nobody knew because internal thoughts. At that time, I was like, and so I thought I was total ninja because, it was one of those I found underwater volcanoes, so I got this little volcano. My internal thoughts, it was as it was. And then because of the length of time for certain things, it's like, scuba divers wish they knew because if they were. They only have that faded temps, but it's fine. That's fine. Because I was that much of a dork in my thoughts, so yeah. Yeah. So it is. Don't be jealous. There's nothing to be jealous of. So yeah. So people can only speak from experience. Okay? Otherwise, they're being judgmental. And so in the reference of, well, how are you being judgmental? Did you know people? Or did you only see a small you don't have any background as to actually knowing anybody, but your perception of whoever in that capacity of. And then when you take in consideration, okay, I didn't hide certain things because, you know, and so I mowed my own lawn and I took care of my house and I took care of my son and my daughter and so on and so forth. And so, you know, it's just one of those. And then anybody who knows how certain small town types are, as far as that's concerned, and you know, those types. So, yeah, but the youngest being in their 40s. So by the time at minimum of the 1970s is to, you know, flower children. Just saying. Yeah. So my biological mother has 4 half siblings. Which one is which? You know? Are you more like Leonard as far as that's concerned, where you want to pretend certain things, but you actually are as you are? Are you like Edie as far as, you know, having certain backgrounds, though needing to take care of certain things or whatever as far as that's concerned? Are you more like Chris, which is like, yeah, my biological mother tried to say that she didn't know anybody that smoked the marijuana. Oh, okay. Yeah, Joe. Oh, she was a proud bra burner. She was proud to have burned her bra. Yeah, okay. You glad that there wasn't any? I bet you wish there was. I bet you wish there was. I guess though it depends. Yeah, which one you? Please. And then, you know, okay, or are you like Neil? Which one? And then which child of theirs? And, you know, ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, it don't matter, it don't matter, it's fine, it's fine. You know, which one you know, which aspect of are you doing the, now that I've matured and so grown up, but I'm going to give all these opinions where those opinions come from. What version of MK Ultra that be? For that particular reference, hypothetically. Yeah, because, you know, just is as it is for, and then what are you guilty of? You know, because in regards to, I very much follow the 10 Commandments. It's very simple. But how did you get into whatever relationship with whomever? And so that's, you know, whatever. It is as it is. To each their own. But yeah. I know that across the street, compared to the house that was in the center area, anytime I went to go speak with the male that I had seen to just introduce myself, he'd turn his back on me, though I only saw him after, um, after I got into scuba diving, to be honest. I think the first time I saw him was, well, after the Gulf of Mexico. When I landed at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico all those times in my scuba dive. And it was weird because he'd be in the middle of going down the little bit of a hill, and then I'd go and I'd be like, hi, and then he just, it's like, well, what did I do? And then because I don't like being overbearing, okay, well, fine. Never mind, I was going to invite you to a barbecue, never mind. No, that's fine. No, it's okay. No, that's good. No, that's fine. Gonna go see my underwater volcano that I brought on there instead. I could make a joke at that but it is as it is. Anyway. So then, then there's the neighbor that was next door, which um, the Catholic one, as far as that's concerned, she only started going after the male as soon as after certain things had occurred. Just so happened to be, oh, here's a casserole. Yeah, yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, right. And then had a bunch of children between the two of them, Catholics as far as that's concerned. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm not the smartest crayon in the toolbox, but And then, had my own house and who I had, whatever, as far as the aspects of, it is as it is. And so, it just is as it is. And so then across the street in that particular reference, I don't know as far as children, as far as that's concerned. And so if the assumptions were as the assumptions were in comparison, oh, we have older children and stuff like that in comparison. You need somebody your own age. Stay out of my life. I don't actually get along with people my own age. That's why I could actually have spoken with you. That's why I could actually have a polite discussion in that comparison. So those types ever thinking that I'd ever need to be in a relationship with someone my own age, why? What would you ever know about who I am? Back then or now? Because of your assumptions in that hypothetical? Hypothetically, and of course, that damage can't be undone as far as that's concerned. And so when people make assumptions to whatever their background is in comparison to taking in consideration how time has progressed forward, but then there's the hypothetical assumption because I like to wear corsets. And so then there's that connotation in comparison to ever having the common sense that some people just enjoy wearing corsets and creating outfits. But whatever your assumption is from whatever your background as to that point in time. So I have the technology backup as far as the reality to the amount in reference to discussions that I had, whether I had text messaged, whether I had phone calls, whether I emailed, and what about in comparison. So with that reality as to what my actual numbers are in comparison to what the thought process may have been. That's why you don't ever make an assumption, especially in this current time frame. And so then you have that, singular view. Well, what's your singular view in that comparison? So when single, what type of female biologically were you in comparison to myself? Then in reference to whatever comments as far as the male capacity of what does that matter? If you actually have a worthwhile relationship, shouldn't it be a trustworthy situation? Or whatever insecurities that would be those insecurities, why would those insecurities be insecurities for you? What levels did you go to get whatever in that capacity? Because any individual, whatever side of a relationship, if the aspects of are that you're that so insecure, whether it's your own background, whether it's how you had whatever in the capacity of, what does that say about the strength of whether or not you actually were capable to that in love? And so, where some individuals may confuse whatever they might confuse, well, why? So, personally, I know that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I haven't ever thought of myself the way some people have said their opinions were of me. I didn't really think that I was snobby back in 2009 or 2010 or 2011 or 2012. I didn't see how I really could be considered as snobby at all, but that is as it is. People in reference to Club Sapphire, when I had been volunteering as far as cleaning up certain areas, setting up in regards of volunteering is to setting up the shower to be taken care of, going and putting the condiments where they needed to be, making sure the coffee station was squared away, taking care of the candies, putting out the whatever aspects of before the actual event, during the event, going and checking in the office areas to if the staff needed anything, restocking the coffee and stuff like that, restocking the bar area with the different sodas, also the ice and stuff like that, making sure there were towels and the condiment stuff actually taken care of, you know, um, making sure the DJ had what was needed and so on and so forth, doing security walks in the back as well as around the buildings. If you consider that snobby, because that's pretty much what I would do in different capacities no matter what event I was at, well, I don't know how that's considered snobby, but sure. There's not an event that I mean, sure, I talked with people at different events throughout the state of Texas, but I got called snobby. And so I don't change who I am no matter where I go. So in the reference to if the claims regarding any hypotheticals as to Sapphire in Washington State as to claiming that, as to no different than when in the state of Texas, what would you consider as being snobby in that capacity? Or would it be that you were projecting your own viewpoint as to yourself as to in that hypothetical? Because if in that hypothetical of me having been called snobby was because I didn't volunteer information, that's not snobby. That's your arrogance and your haughtiness to ever expect that you deserved that in comparison to actually being humble enough to actually ask me using actual audible words in a formulated sentence to have an actual discussion in comparison. So in that hypothetical as to people I once knew from my teenage years and or my childhood years, if there was any aspect, especially as to active duty compared to National Guard or reservist, but especially active duty, if anybody active duty contacted any side to my son and or my daughter regarding biologically to try to get information from them and didn't get permission from higher up command, you literally broke UCMJ laws because you don't have the right or authority in the civilian sector to do that as active duty, National Guard, or reservist, but especially active duty. And whether or not it was known that I have a blue ID card and that I'm the one and only sponsor, that's a different capacity to a military industrial complex. And so if anybody contacted my son and or, whichever one, my son and or my daughter, regarding individuals as to whatever biological connection, and they didn't have permission to ever allow my son or my daughter to speak with anybody, if any capacity of regarding active duty or what have you, they legally had no right to do so. So if anybody that I once knew had anybody bring up that in the name of the military or whichever branch or division, especially the Navy and or any type of special forces, officially they broke UCMJ codes as far as the legal references. They are not allowed to utilize that off of a military installation. It's no different than the reference to the metaphor of the homeowners association president who tried to use the San Antonio Police Department factor. There is a massively huge difference between my blue ID card and an active duty individual. Active duty individual is not allowed to use that off of a military installation unless they are overseas off of the soil of the United States of America. Activated National Guard or whatever version of National Guard, they are the only ones that can kind of ish. Only if they're not activated, though. Only if they're only doing the version of weekend warrior sort of stuff. Only. Because they'd have to have a civilian sector job of employment, technically, in this hypothetical. Now, in regards of reserve, they would not either. They couldn't, especially if they were activated reserve. Now, if you take in consideration the Air Force as to ex-in-laws, officially they had no right whatsoever. They knew that it was the second and final separation after that particular point in time. Those ex-in-laws of mine regarding Georgia, they had absolutely no right to ever. Not only that, in regards of my ex-brother-in-law referencing that area of Macon, Georgia, he himself legally, through the UCMJ, would not ever legally be allowed to instruct or order his dependents in that capacity in the civilian sector, because legally that would be the problem that President Eisenhower referred to as to the military-industrial complex. That legally would break UCMJ laws because of there is no cause, no reason, and no excuse to ever in that capacity. And the if factor of going and meddling with my son, my daughter, and what's my family, just to utilize that aspect to try to ever get me to want to be involved with them ever, that is in reference to the modern day book. In my book section on my website, www.susanmeling.com, which would be the same as www.ladydorybell.com, because that sort of military tactic by an active duty different branch, and especially with that sort of stuff that every Army and Air Force individual knows, especially when it comes to certain Air Force types, then you have that capacity because the 5 different branches knows how that is, and if in the hypothetical as to the reason why it's going from the Air Force to the Space Force, because of that, as to any hypothetical of those additional types of needless problems on U.S. soil regarding that after the failures as to the year 2001 with my original blue ID card, that would be the largest amount of red flags as to that. And the irony as to in the recent time frames of the Georgia Guidestones, apparently there was a explosion in the area of the Georgia Guidestones and they were destroyed. Well, maybe there's an irony as to that regarding my ex-in-laws regarding Macon, Georgia. Now, in that regard of the time capsule, well, did anybody ever think to do an x-ray of the actual granite stones themselves before they were blown up? Did anybody ever think to do those x-ray machines in the ground in comparison to just in case it's something small? I mean, just pointing that out there. I've seen on some, I think it's History Channel videos, they have little x-ray machines that kind of look like lawnmowers, but they're not. And they x-ray the ground. Just throwing that out there. I kind of figured that as many people, as far as some of the technology stuff, taking pictures, that I mean, I don't have access to one of those, but, you know. And then, did anybody ever get what the top part on top of the Georgia Guidestones actually looked as? Like, the other side? So there was the ceiling thingamabob. Did anybody get a picture of what the top part looked as? Was there ever anything there? I mean, personally, I kind of wanted to do a rubbing of the top of that, but, never mind on that to see if there was any inscriptions. But, never mind as far as that's concerned, because obviously there was the explosion a few days ago at the Georgia Guidestone. So, I literally just got charcoal. I was going to go down to the area and never mind. Guess can't do that now. Thanks. Never mind. No, because, why would that ever? Never mind. No, that would, go and have permission and regard to that and could have done that, but, never mind. Uh, Situations now, as far as apparently the news report. Had literally just throwing that out there. That would have been really cool to be capable to go on top of that and do a rubbing to see if there was any inscriptions because of the aspects of. But those people that just you assume that you know everything and could do things without being destructive. Throwing that out there, that would have been really cool. I was really wanting to get that stuff taken care of correctly so that way I could actually go do that. But instead, all of the needless delays as far as that's concerned. But I didn't put it in writing, which I'm not needing to as far as that's concerned. And there's just is as it is as far as that. But there is that reference to the hypothetical of that 5 billion number. Is there 5 billion different situations that, in regards to the online factor of different interconnections in comparison to a singular viewpoint? And so, just really upset right now because I got my charcoal. Gonna go find where Home Depot was to get a ladder to some of you people really just pointing that out there. Comparison. That would have been really awesome to be capable to do. I mean, I did take a bunch of pictures, like really close up, and was actually gonna but so that singular view, sometimes you probably shouldn't have such a singular view and think that you know every little detail. Because maybe at this point in time, it's kind of capable to see a larger interconnection. I mean, what was an interconnection there in reference to that? Instead, So, but in regards to the people as to the Georgia Guidestones, if the top stone is still, in a semi-solid piece, if you could contact me through my to contact form, that'd be great. I'd actually like to, now I wouldn't need a ladder. I guess there's the upside to that in comparison. Pointing that out there, you know, because maybe that was the time capsule actually instead, those factors of. But I'm only 5'4" compared to, so been working on my stuff and it's fine. I'm just a biological female. So anyway, yeah, however, yeah. Probably should ask. So I'll give this as a reference point. I had cleared up some space in certain areas, and because I was gonna use, I had plans to take care of stuff, but in comparison to other, but then that would be a different point in comparison to ever assuming, just every time I go to actually do what I actually know in comparison, you probably shouldn't assume you know. You probably shouldn't, because then if you don't know and then you do something like, what happened to the Georgia Guidestones, well, what could ever be in that regard in comparison? That's fine. Now, how much of a situation could that be? Just throwing that out there, could have just climbed on top of the ladder, or just because I know how to do certain things, I could have just. But no, that's fine. Why would anybody ask me yet again? Like maybe at some point in time that'll actually occur. Instead. So no, that's so the singular view. Sometimes you might want to have a more multifaceted view in comparison to assuming you know. Maybe it might be important. But if in regards of the number, then there's that as to the possibility of. And so yeah, that's just, there's this modernization of stuff. Like there's a few things that have kind of been modernized. There are these X-ray machines you can kind of take and look at stuff and see if there is stuff in the middle. Like what if there was a piece of paper in the middle of one of those? And instead you could have just done the X-ray in comparison. Kind of like my Medal of Honor art project pieces. They could have comparison. I wanted to go and check the top to see if there, but no, that's fine. Comparison. I know a little bit about construction, just a smidgen. Could have actually, but no, that's fine. Instead. maybe if in that hypothetical you could just, ask instead of assuming. But anyway, so that singular view is an irony. Is an irony as to that. Yeehaw. I don't know. Maybe it seems a little a different type. Yeehaw. In comparison. Yeah. So, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Yep. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah. So, maybe asking, and actually doing so. Nonetheless, maybe there's a vault somewhere that, I don't know. I'm really upset right now because I was so excited. I got what I needed for, I was going to go work on literally yesterday, the 11th of July, 2022. Literally had everything ready to just be capable to make a quick enough trip. And instead, well, that was definitely a surprise as far as that's concerned. So, but then there's that, because, there's that energetic stuff. If you don't have, if you don't have an actual background in certain things, and don't know if anybody ever thought about that, or like biological pathogens to take in consideration. But fantastic. It is as it is, and I don't know. I'm just really upset right now. So it is as it is. It's fine. It's fine. Yep. Because what's the wind direction? And particles. If, I wouldn't know. I mean, I wouldn't have that knowledge. But, I was going to do an investigative aspect, just get to the top part, and then could do a write-up on it. More official capacity comparison. So, but hey, goes to that cul-de-sac situation as to that, because, there were 3 houses and there were 3 flags. So, which one took my New Jersey flag? Which one took my Texas flag? And which one took my American flag? As far as that's concerned. Which is theft, obviously. However, as far as that's concerned, so I'll guesstimate that the center house might have actually taken what was my American flag from that. And, just, why? Why? And then, well, the other 2 could be whichever on whichever. Who knows? So, yeah, there you go. As far as that's concerned. You know, those types. But hey, if you take a look at a viewpoint of my house in New Jersey, or my house in San Antonio, compared to what was my home as to my house in Carrollton, Texas, or Military City, USA now regarding San Antonio, um, those particular aspects of how the guide stones were arranged. As far as the structure, if you were to have actually, for those who know what type of picture carousel I'm referring to, as to what that could have actually been instead. But comparison to that, you probably didn't like the Da Vinci Code, did you? In comparison, I liked the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. I liked the books, as well as I actually dealt with the headaches and migraines from the movie. Just gonna throw that out there. You probably were one of those. Huh? Hypothetically. I did actually go to a movie theater to see the Da Vinci Code. And whatever year that came out. And it was around the time when people were also protesting the Passion of the Christ, both of them, if I remember correctly. And I actually had wanted to see both. And more specifically, the Da Vinci Code and the irony as far as the Georgia Guidestones. Nonetheless, there were these people in the parking lot that had their little signs similar to those Westboro Baptist church types before they started really kicking up as far as I was concerned. And so, yeah, what an irony as to that being the original baby Jesus Christ and stuff. What would that happen? Nah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Because, Anyway, just kind of figured I'd. But hey, I can refer to that guy on the Gutfeld show as far as the link. Well, and you'll have to listen to understand this metaphor reference regarding his comments, because why be upset about the Second Amendment? What type of joke is there to be made about the Second Amendment when you take that for particular, positive? But no, that's so, what's the background as far as would you see the background of that, as far as that's concerned? And so, it's a big property, for just that. I don't know if anybody else ever thought about, other than the people who maintained the grounds, as far as the area, as far as, I don't know if anybody noticed, it's fairly low height in grass, as far as I was concerned. So obviously there's maintenance as far as the lawn. And so, I don't know if anybody who went out there ever had walked the grounds. I did. I walked them. The horses on the other side, they actually, I don't know where they came from, but they just all of a sudden were there, and was as it was. Well, horsey. But I don't know if anybody, as to however long that's been there regarding the Georgia Guidestones, I don't know how many, or if anybody ever walked around to see the other areas of the property line, or if they only went to the one area, which which I guess is an irony as to the singular view point in that regard. Because, you know, drive all that way, why not? I mean, just be respectful, of course, as far as that was concerned. But yeah, just pointing that out there. I don't know if anybody ever thought about that. As far as how the grass wasn't really all that high. It's still walk around. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what anybody else may have thought. But it was as it was. And there's just that as far as that's concerned. So anyway, so yeah, it's a different background, obviously, now. Well, I guess it's not as, I don't know, somebody else could say whether or not that's a funny joke or not, or sarcastic. I don't know. So, I guess I can make a joke here as far as those who've been out to the area. So yeah, there's that. There is definitely that. Just putting that out there. Including the, I don't know, like I'm just pointing that out there for those who've actually said it's almost like a flattened version of the color. That was like the most ideal thing for me to remember to go. And then, I went out there and then there was a deer that appeared out of nowhere and some stuff, some flashes of light, so I was gonna... No, that's fine. It's okay. It's gonna just... that's fine. Just have seen some stuff, kinda figure. That's cool, that's cool. I mean, that's kind of also an irony regarding more recently as to certain oddities as to... Anyway, so, yeah, that's fantastic. So, yeah, it's, woo, But hey, the guy's from Alaska, so maybe he's seen the aurora borealis. And so... so, there's that to take in consideration. So, yeah, that's fantastic. Awesome. Yeah, no, that's fine. Just gonna... It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. Totally cool. Yeah, it's totally cool. That's awesome. Yeah, it's cool. That's cool. That's cool. So it's literally just so anybody knows who had not seen it but could look at pictures of the Georgia Guidestones, it literally is a more than singular view point as far as that's concerned. Yeah, because it's a different type of... I don't know if that was a reference to the hee-haw. I don't know. Just gonna point that out there as far as concerned. I don't know, AR-15 compared to... nonetheless, I'm just gonna... Yeah. Which is an irony because, after the Texas something another, they say yeehaw. As far as that's concerned, I learned that in the year 2020. So I don't know if, Whoopi Goldberg and the View cast seen those particular videos as far as that's concerned. Take that in consideration as far as that. I think it's a Texas song, or maybe it's the Texas. I don't know, but something with the yeehaw. And so, if you'll excuse me, I'm still kind of processing what occurred as to the Georgia Guidestones. I'm doing what I can to not be a whiny little titty baby bitch right now. Doing the best I can. Kind of smidgen upset. I thought I had an energetic aspect that I had picked up upon, and so now it makes so much sense why I've been kind of. It's fine. It's okay. It's fine. So anyway, so different singular view and stuff. So anyway, yeah. So it's cool. It's cool. It's cool. That's cool. So, um, so now it might be time to take in consideration when going into certain details. Well, if you take a look at what was the Georgia Guidestones, has 4 different points like a rectangle or square does, though it has technically 8 because of the double-sided points, and then technically 12 per because of the 4 different sides in that culmination of, and then the puzzle piecing together stuff. But anyway, as far as that's concerned, as far as up at the ceiling and stuff, right. Nonetheless, so then, you have that, and then you have that. So, some of the particular references to the multifaceted viewpoint. Um, so the irony, there's 4 females on the view, and here's the 4 different points as to the Georgia Guidestones. And so, and then as far as metaphors, and then the different aspects of more than one facet per individual, as far as their life experiences and their viewpoints and their lives and what makes them who they are individually. And so, kind of similar to the different Georgia Guidestone pieces, how on each side they still say the same things, just different words because of the language and comparison. So, nonetheless, thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. Like my official YouTube videos. Subscribe to my official YouTube channel. If you're going to leave a comment, make sure to have etiquette and respect. It's my website, www.suzumiling.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com. Yeah. So, yeah, go check out that link in the information section. This official YouTube video of mine. Go listen to that. That's what inspired this entire, however many minutes and seconds long video that this might be. Although I suppose an irony, because that 500 or 5 billion number. So today is the 12th of July, 2022, and the possibility as to the number of seconds for that. I don't know. If that adds up to that amount of seconds. official YouTube videos to my channel. So thanks for tuning in. Today is the 12th of July, 2022. You guys have a good day. It's the 12th of July, 2022. It's Tuesday.